Okay, it is now about 3 minutes after 6, and the 724 Durant City Council meeting is now called to order. And we would ask Mr. Clements if he would give our invocation, if everyone will stand and remain standing while Mike Morris leads us in the flag salute.
Lord God, we thank you for this opportunity to be together tonight. Take care of this important one. We thank you, God, for the families and for the businesses and people who are all represented here this evening. Thank you for the people who will be honored, Lord. Their example shows us what it means to live. Pray God, for the blessing. Pray also that we prepare to enter this day with some spirit of peace and of concord. I pray that you'll keep us mindful that what we make is the point. We are all here for the same purpose. To be the vision and way to make us good. I pray in you and I pray in the name for our time. In the Son's name I pray.
Amen.
Will you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Shear,
Here.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Here.
Councilmember Morris,
Here.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Here.
Mayor Groby.
Here, we are all here today, so we have a quorum. We have several presentations we want to make, so we're going to ask all of the council to join us down in front like we usually do, and our city manager. So would everybody come join us down front? This thing's working. Proclamation first, and then I can't remember what song they have. The proclamations first. Can you hear me? Am I on? Okay. Am I on now? We want to welcome everyone here today, and we have a proclamation that we would like to present. And please forgive me if I don't get the name just right. I've been told 2 or 3 different things, so I can blame Ann Chin and her husband. But this is for Mr. Yeah. Would you please come forward, sir? I have a proclamation I'd like to read you. A proclamation expressing appreciation to Asian Gourmet Chinese Restaurant, whereas Asian Gourmet Chinese Restaurant opened their doors for business in Durant in 2011, and whereas Asian Gourmet Chinese Restaurant plays a vital part of the economic strength in Durant and are valued by our citizens and tourists alike, and whereas Asian Gourmet Chinese Restaurant is an important community partner in helping our area organizations with worthy charitable causes, and whereas Asian Gourmet Chinese Restaurant donated $30,000 in hand sanitizer and personal protective equipment, PPE, to different local organizations, including Alliance Health Center and the City of Durant. Now, therefore, I, Odin Groby, Mayor of the City of Durant, do hereby proclaim the appreciation of the citizens of Durant to you, the owner of Asian Gourmet Chinese Restaurant. I do hereby further proclaim the appreciation of the citizens of the City of Durant to you for your long-standing community support and generosity. Witness my hand on this day of July 2020 in the office of the mayor, Durant City Hall. We would like to present this.
Thank you.
And we are going to ask Mr. James Dalton to come up and say a few words to this nice gentleman for him.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. One thing I wanted to point out, as soon as the COVID crisis started to impact us, the first thing we noticed was the fact that we could not get hands on personal protective equipment. We could not get our hands on hand sanitizer, and Ye Wu and his family stepped forward. And if you see over here on the table, they gave us 20 cases of that hand sanitizer and thousands of face masks that we could not get hands on. So it is very appreciated. We were able to get those out to our workers who were having to be in harm's way, and we really did appreciate that. So I just wanted to thank you again for that. And your food's great, by the way. So that's another part.
Thank you so
again.
much. Thank you so much. And do you have any family you want your picture made with them? Would you like to come up? And James, you want to stand over here with him? He don't want to come up. It's okay. He's shy. Okay. Did you get it? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. The next thing we are going to do is presentation of Employee Service Awards for the second quarter. We have a combined 145 years of dedicated service to the city of Durant. 5 years. The 5-year pins, Paige LaPriest, Utility Department, certificate pin, and $50. Where are you? Some of them in the other room, I understand. All of them that are getting awards are hiding out. Hi, Paige. Miss Page is getting a certificate and a pen and a $50 check for her 5 years experience or work. Thank you so much. Thank you, Paige. Hey, look Tell him hi. Congratulations, Paige, from all of us. Thank you so much. Our next 5-year pin goes to Raven Swigert. I think she's in 911 dispatch, certificate, pin, and $50 check. Is she here? Thank you, Chief. Next, we have 20 years. Lieutenant Christopher Marcy, Police Department, plaque, certificate, pen, and $200. He's here to get his $200. You get your goodies, and you can stand right here, Chris, and we'll get a picture of it. Is everybody close enough? Thank you for your 20 years. Thank you very much. The next 20-year pin goes to Lieutenant Jesse Petty, Police Department, plaque, certificate, pin, and he's not here. Chief, are you gonna get his money too? Thank you, Chief. Thank you to him, even though he's not here. Okay, the next 20-year Robert Gibson, water treatment plant, plaque, certificate, pen, and $200. Congratulations. Thank you so much. 25 years. Michael Stinson, utility line maintenance, plaque, certificate, pen, and $250. So Mark's going to get his. Okay, all right, Marty will get his. Thank you. Another 25-year pin, Lieutenant Stacy Loper, Fire Department, plaque, certificate, pen, $250. And he's here to get his. You want to come up here and get your picture made? Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. 25 years. Battalion Chief Stephen Wilson, Fire Department, plaque, certificate, pen, $250. Get your mug shot here. Thank you so much. Congratulations. The last one we have here, and I don't have his name on here, but I know who he is. I see him grinning over there. I believe Roger, our fire chief, is going to come up and say a few words for Kelso, who's retiring. Is that correct? Did I screw that up?
No, you got it right. Y'all can go ahead and be seated, and he just wants to say a few words, address the council, and
Okay.
I don't know if he'll need a microphone or not.
No, he won't.
Steve, come up here. This is Steve Kelso. He just retired at the end of the month. Steve's got 27 years in with the department. He was battalion chief and ran a crew, did a very good job at it. He's loved this job since day one. I remember the time when I got hired, and I remember talking to Steve, saying, and Steve is my brother-in-law, by the way, but I told Steve, I said, man, you need to go down there and apply. I said, that is really a good job. It's fun. I can't believe this. They pay us to do the job. So anyway, so he applied a couple years later and got on, and now he's completed 27 years, and he'd like to say a couple words.
Thank you. Hey, you guys don't hold that against me because my sister was desperate. That's one of them things. But I would like to take this time to thank you guys for 27 years of, that's half my life. Jerry Tomlinson and Odin Grudy, I appreciate you guys. And Mike Morris, I've known you guys this whole career. And John, I say to these other two guys that's with you, I've known them a long time, but not as long as these three. And in the fire service in 27 years, you know how money goes in the city. One day you're rich and the next day you're poor, and you got one person, I need this fixed, one needs that fixed. And, you know, I've seen some times that we did need some fire trucks and some equipment, and Paul Bunce and Steve Dow and you guys, I appreciate you guys. And James Dalton has always been there for us. But you know, when you're taking care of people and their life is depending on you, you appreciate a city council that will sponsor training and equipment. There's nothing more comforting and backing is when you got a big downtown fire and the people in your city is losing money by the second, and your council members has went to bat for you and sent you for your training. So when you're standing out there sending those guys in, I'm telling you, you don't know what it feels like till you're telling somebody else to go do it and you're watching. It was pretty fun when you doing it yourself. Give me the pack, let's go in, and that kind of thing. You know, we got a wonderful thing going for the last 5 or 6 years here at Durant for the fire service. We've been getting training in. We got a new training officer. Mark Hall was our old training officer. He set us up with some technology, but Jeff is a hands-on kind of guy. And I got to tell you, back in March, I thought, you know, I can still do what them young guys did. Well, we set up a training deal in the engine bay, and you know, I could tell you here all night long how it is to be a fireman, but till you wear them boots one time, that's your brothers. Whatever you hear goes in that fire station, think about what went on when you was a kid at home. Do you tell everything that you see at home happen? Heck, no, you don't. But if you're there 24 hours with those people, they're more to you than an employee. They're your kids when you're a supervisor. They're your men when you're on a fire, and they're the best companion you ever had. Now, with that being said, you guys pay some guys to wear guns. They're our brothers too. When I went to work here, it was a no-no to talk to the police officers. We're not going to talk to them. We're the firemen, they're the policemen. And in 27 years, those guys wearing the guns have drug fire hoses. They've ate donuts because I had them served to them at a restaurant. They have put junk on my track hose. They have put junk on my fire trucks. But the best part, they put their love on me. Jerry, Holden, Mike, there's no better job than one for the city of Durant, because we're not a fire department. We're not a city manager, John. You might as well be a fireman. Stick your hat on, because we need you. You're going to work. Jerry knows. James Dalton knows. He's been out there and got the mud on him. Mike, you've been there. And I'm telling you, for 27 years, it's been a blessing. And I love you for it. But I'm not leaving. Nope. I'm Durant, 100%. I don't care how it goes. I've raised 2 kids. And I have had more fun than a lifetime season pass at Six Flags or wherever else on your nickel. I would not give my memories. I'm telling you, good Lord has blessed me from the bottom of my heart. You don't know when you pull up on a wreck, a house fire. You can't see that from that TV camera at home. You don't know what those firefighters and those police officers do, and those EMS guys. You don't know what they're doing for you here in the city of Durant. They're better people than you have ever seen. They will give the money, the last nickel out of their pocket, to see somebody get clothes on their back. I appreciate you for giving us that opportunity. And I'm going to tell you one last thing. I want you to all to do one thing for me. As you drive to work every day and you hit that pothole in the road, You drive by that crooked stop sign. You drive by that city worker and you want to say something negative. You eat that word. Find something positive. You hear me? Positive to think about Durant. We have not made the news with anything that, yes, are we perfect? Well, I think we're pretty dang close, but no, there is things that happen. We're not proud of everything, but negativity don't do anything but tear us apart. And we've worked a long, long time to get what we got in Durant. I played basketball right here when I went to work here. Look what a nice facility we have. We got people in Durant that love us, or we wouldn't have this. We got people that care about us. The good Lord's blessed us. So I want you to find one positive thing to think of instead of that negative. This is Durant. It's a name. It just says Durant, but that's not Durant. This is Durant, the people, you guys. That's Durant. This guy that works on cars, he shows up, comes on Rex with the middle of the night with his wrecker. Do we need him? Yes, he's a fireman. He's a policeman. This lady right here works in the city, Paul. Yeah. She got a bad choice for men, but we can't help that. He's a policeman. Yeah. So she cleaned donuts. But you know what? I'm taking up your time, but I'm telling you, I have 27 years of wonderful years. You can too, but be positive. Don't be negative. Please don't be negative. That man in the door, 10 years ago, now it's been 20 years ago, we signed a contract that we were tired of being untrained firemen. And the older guy said, you guys are nuts. Y'all are crazy. Steve Wilson said, Kelso, I got it. We will go to those classes at OSU. We'll bring them back home so that Durant can afford to train these guys. I said, well, I ain't got time for that. He said, you got to rest sometime. I'll pick you up and we'll go on Friday evenings and go to those classes. And if it's a week long, we'll take a week off, and I promise you, we'll have fun. Well, I'm not a very good study person at all. I hated school. I could read and do it. You know how I'm talking about, country boy style, right? That man over there is a bricklayer, but he is very talented. He can read, pick that up, and teach it right back to you. Did we go eat ice cream once or twice? Yes, we did. You know why? We're sitting over there doing that homework. He will make you do your homework if you go to class with him. But he makes you proud when you got the top score when you get out of a fire arson investigation class. That's your brothers. Roger bought the first rescue harness and brought to Durant. The police officers, they agreed that they'd train with us and let us go to their classes. That don't happen in other cities. That don't happen in other towns. So we are a super big monster town with a little shell. And I want you to think positive about Durant. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
I kind of think he hates to go. Item number 2 on our agenda is consent items.
If
We
Steve
can-
will run for office, I'll vote for him.
Number 2, thank you so much. Item number 2 is our consent items, A through F. We can either accept them all as one vote, or we can pull out. If anyone wishes to pull one of them out or 2 of them out for further discussion, please do so now. Anyone wish to pull out any of the consent items? If not, do we have a motion that we accept the consent items?
Motion to accept consent items.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham.
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 3, no items to be removed. Number 4, information items. If anyone has no questions about the information items, we will move on down to administration, number 5. Number A, under administration, consider approval for permanent memorial marker for Hunter Ford, Jack Sarver, Fernando Flores, and Caleb Foster. Any discussion?
All right. Thank you guys for hearing this agenda item. While visiting with the families of Caleb Foster, Jack Sarver, Hunter Ford, and Fernando Flores, the families expressed interest in erecting a permanent memorial marker near the intersection where the Fort Durant High School students lost their lives in a crash. Currently, a makeshift memorial is on site, ready on Main Street. It's overflowing with flags, flowers, candles, keepsakes, and 4 crosses that will eventually, if not already, have been sealed and given to the teens' parents. The parents and the other facilitators are seeking permission to erect a permanent memorial to be erected on that site. Miss Lori Petty had reached out to the city manager and subsequently I as well, and had been consulting with parents Rick, Sabrina, Sherry, Lee Sarver, Mary Kelsey, and Crystal Martin, and their families as well, on the planning and erection of a memorial for Hunter, Jack, Caleb, and Fernando. The memorial vision has changed from what you have in your packet there. The original vision was that 4 sitting lions will sit atop a memorial wall constructed with a concrete base, a brick wall, and a concrete top, and below each line with the inscription of each teen's name. On the face of that wall be a simple message either relating to Durant School's motto, once a lion, always a lion, and they've also talked about some public safety messages had to do with impaired driving as well. That vision has grown. I've seen some of the plans that it's grown to, and it's a pretty amazing vision that they have. The group's going to raise dollars to fund both the memorial and construction of the memorial wall. In its original plan, that wall was about 7 feet wide, about 2 feet deep, and then the proportionate height would be proportionate to the lions that sit atop that wall, which were about 21 inches tall. So that proposed site of the memorial is going to be at the current memorial site between Main and Radio Road. The memorial will run parallel to Main Street, or again, as the vision shifts, it may be somewhat off center to parallel and face Radio Road. So they've also requested, if this is approved, that the fees, if there are any, I don't know that there are, be waived according to that as well. So on behalf of the families of Hunter, Jack, and Caleb, and Fernando, I told them I would present this to you, but some of them may want to speak to the memorial as well. They've reached out to Joseph with Dynolift, and he has agreed to assist them in the construction and the design of this memorial wall if approved. And he had a pretty good drawing. And excuse me 1 minute. Do you guys know if Joseph has given you anything to bring to tonight's council meeting? I know he had expressed interest that he was going to be here and bring something to show. Okay. All righty. Having said that, do you guys have a spokesperson? Again, they indicated that Joseph was supposed to be here with a drawing, and I'll let Rick speak to you, and then I can kind of describe what that drawing, the last rendition that I saw as well. Rick?
I'm sure most of you guys know me. I'm Rick Ford. I work for the PD. Hunter was my son. The last draft that we had, as the chief mentioned, concrete top, brick under that, and a concrete base. Joseph had the exact measurements. There would be the lines on top of that, and then a small cross under each, and then the plaque representing each of their names. And we're going to put maybe a public service announcement maybe on the back of the monument. Again, we don't have the exact measurements right now. I think when we met yesterday, Joseph said it could be as wide as long as 14 feet. And proportionate to, like the chief said, the size of the lines that we actually put atop it. Kind of off the specifics of the monument itself. I know each of you witnessed the outpouring of support that the city gave these families. And I know there may be questions about setting a precedent. Well, if we do it for these families, then would we be approached again, later if another tragedy happens in the city? I would just say to that this, as far as I know, is an unprecedented event. And it has brought this community together. It'll go a long way to both helping these families heal and this community heal. And we do appreciate your consideration on it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
I think Rick adequately expressed kind of the changing designs as we go. It goes deeper than that, even as he described the memorial that the vision has evolved into, even to the point where the construction company has entertained the concept of drainage and concrete walkways and things like that. So not, the concept until you see it on paper. And I wish Joseph was here to present that. I envisioned a wall. Whenever I seen his vision, it was much more than that, much more than that. Again, a platform, concrete drainage, dug into the side of the wall with the proper drainage, this, that, and the other. And I do echo Rick's sentiment as well. This is an unprecedented event that's occurred, tragic event that's occurred in Durant, in I think every one of our lives. I don't think there's not one person that hasn't been affected by this event. So on behalf of the families, they would appreciate your consideration of allowing them to erect, with your permission and with your oversight, a memorial wall. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Any discussion?
I would have a couple of questions, and please understand Rick and families, just their questions. And I have no difficulty with any of the requests and support this 100%, 110%. I think my question is just about the location. Is Main Street there still considered a highway?
No, sir.
So all of the
not
right
part
of
of
way,
the
all of
state.
the right of way is now the cities.
Cities, yes, sir.
And my only thought there was any future development or road or street construction that could interfere with the memorial at that site. Do we foresee anything like that? Or could that be a consideration?
I do not see anything in the future at that location. So,
And I think I would just ask the question, are there any other locations that have been considered? And hey, guys, I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. Understand that for sure.
Absolutely. I think in their discussions, many locations have been considered. They've talked with the high school. They've talked with some business owners here and there. their primary location, desired location is where the memorial currently rests. As the fact of the matter is that that site's very important to the families, as you can tell already. There are some alternative sites, but that's certainly not their primary vision.
Chief, I noticed, I've been down in that area and there's still a lot of the young people that congregate there. They go there and I think that's, to them, that's the place.
It certainly seems to be so. Eventually that's going to have to be cleaned up as an unauthorized site. But with respect to the families, it's been allowed to continue. Some of the problems thus far has been it's not a permanent erected site of stone, mortar, brick, this, that, and the other. So there's candles. I personally had to go out there and put candles out, where they wouldn't destroy, the grass. It was starting to catch fire. So a temporary site, as you have now, which has the potential to continue because that is important to people, won't be the same, won't be as safe, won't be as structurally sound, if you will. It'll still have the candles and the, forgive me, family, the debris, if you will, that a permanent site would have. You're doing away with the debris field, and again, respectfully, but and erecting something permanent that someone can go and have the same feeling for the family, the same respect, if you will, but something that's permanent and from what I've seen, visually pleasing as well. But excellent vision there.
I feel pretty strongly that it should be on city property, and I personally can't imagine anywhere other than the actual site.
I move approval for the permanent memorial marker for Hunter Ford, Jack Tarver, Fernando Flores, and Caleb Foster, and that the request be honored to waive any of the permitting fees or inspection cost or anything like that. And God bless.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson, Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Congratulations.
Again, on behalf of the families, thank you guys. It's very important to them.
Thank you.
Families, thank you.
Item number B, under 5, administration, consider acceptance of Motorola Public Safety Systems Computer Aided Dispatch System and Service Agreement in the amount of $195,433, C-2020-44. That you?
Before I begin, will you give me 1 second?
Sure.
Should have brought my glasses. All righty.
Let me hold that over here.
Y'all got me covered. I appreciate that. So the Durant Communications Center's CAD system, antiquated and certainly in need of replacement. It's been end of life for years now. You guys approved a grant application. The grant application has come back to purchase a new CAD system at the tune of about $195,000. We've chosen to go with Motorola Flex. It's also known as Spillman. And again, that's going to be grant funded. With the remaining, we're going to seek, the remaining, I believe is 30 some odd $1,000 from the fire tax money that the comm center gets as well. So this project should be 100% funded. There's a agreement attached to your council packet that if approved, will need to be signed, and then the work begins. This is probably, I'm gonna guess right at, give or take a few months, a 12-month project that once the contract's signed, it'll be slow going in the first part, and then really hectic as they start, configuring equipment and delivering equipment and setting up equipment and then training our dispatchers, this, that, and the other. But it's definitely a step in the right direction. If you'll notice on the council agenda item, it says still to be negotiated in the scope of work is a working interface with two of our third-party vendors, which was important to me for our department because we want to step forward. We don't want to step back. And the second part of this entire project was the police RMS function, the mobile system in the police cars. And in the capital improvement dollars that the city had this year, it wasn't feasible, to fund that project. Tier 2 or phase 2 of the project, what I would call it. So we're going to want ahead to move forward with the CAD project and put the RMS project on hold. But by doing so, our mobile system is GeoSafe and our RMS system is InSync. So important to me, instead of stepping back and continuing to step forward, at least hold our ground with what we have, is that Motorola, Spillman, Flex will agree to work with those third-party vendors that we already pay for those services. Once those issues have been added, I think the scope of the contract will be ready, but it's definitely continued upon that workability. Now, having said that, they've already been in contact with GeoSafe and have satisfied me and have included that in the scope of work with GeoSafe. And Melissa Lee, she is a Motorola representative sitting over here to our right, your left. She had just provided me, that's why I asked for just a second. She provided me with an addendum in Exhibit B that I will, would you guys like to see it? I only have one copy. But the addendum B assures me that the Flex system includes at no additional cost a data export utility Flex that will send a file to include CAD call information to our third-party RMS vendor, which is InSync, for input into their system, and that we will work with the third-party RMS vendor to define those fields to be imported. So my contingency of giving this contract to you for approval and signatures were dependent upon those two things. We worked everything else. IT's already reviewed it. Our attorney's already reviewed the contract, and I feel comfortable that both those issues that I felt needed to be worked out have been worked out. If you'd like to hear from Melissa, I'm sure she'd like to speak.
Is there any discussion? Would
She says
anybody
no.
like for her to come up and speak?
She come all the way from Missouri. Thank you guys for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Any questions?
Is the grant approval 100% deal, done deal?
Yes, sir. The council has accepted that grant. With a caveat, the only thing that's not a done deal at this point is the matching funds from the fire tax board. I don't see an issue there, though.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion? Are we ready to call for the vote?
I move we accept the Motorola Public Safety Systems Computer Aid Dispatch System and Service Agreement number C-2020-44 in the amount of $195,433.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson, Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Item number C on our agenda, consider approval of resolution 2020-29 to rename sections of Old Highway 70. Miss Lisa, that's you, I guess.
So it came to our attention a couple months ago from a local company that's located along one of these sections of Old Highway 70, that there's been confusion for years since the bypass was constructed. I believe we have 4 sections of Highway 70 that's in city limits, and it's causing a lot of confusion for truck driving and E911 and stuff. So we spoke internally with different departments within the city. We've talked to community development as well as with the local law enforcement. And the proposal is that we rename those sections from along Old Highway 70 from First Street heading east all the way to the bypass. The proposal is that we name that Magnolia. And then from McLean to the bypass, we would rename that East Main Street. And this would be effective November 1st of this year, which would give everyone time to, letters to go out from community development, letting those residences or businesses know about the change and giving them time to change their addresses.
How many residents is this affecting?
I believe businesses and residences, community development came back with a number of approximately 40.
I can tell you from experience, it's not any fun to change your address.
At East
And,
Main,
I've been in business on that street for 40 years. And I had to change all my paperwork and it's just.
And the reason I bring that, is there any assistance for these folks, or can we provide any consultation or
Well,
direction?
they will receive instruction from the community development office here within the city. It's a standard letter that went out last time. Anytime we update any addresses for 911 to be in compliance with that, letters go out to them and they do have 90 days to come into compliance with it. So it's something standard procedure from what I've been told, anytime you change to be in compliance with 911 standards.
Right, and I understand all that, and I'm just saying that it's not a very pleasant thing to go through if, with your change of address to from your friends to your banks to your financial institutions to.
I understand
business,
that. I'm
it's-
in the middle of a move now myself, so I completely understand that.
Darlene, or I'm sorry, not Darlene, but
Danielle?
Danielle, did you have something you wanted to?
I was just going to add that it is the responsibility of the homeowner to change the addresses and all that. I am not aware of any assistance that can be made. It's never been made available to the citizens prior, so it's usually just up to them to get it all changed. So just wanted to make that known.
Well, I see the necessity. It's, I think folks just need to know we have compassion for them.
Yes, I agree, and we do.
And we did have several meetings to discuss different options on this. It was a recommendation from the Department of Transportation.
Well,
Changing the street name is the only way to get beyond this.
It has been a problem because I was out at BJ's one day and he asked me what his address was. And I said, I have no idea what it is. It used to be Highway 70 East, but then something else now is named that, so.
Well, mine, as far as I know, it's still Highway 70 East.
I
I believe that's correct.
why haven't we called that Mulberry?
Call it what?
Mulberry, isn't that what it is?
Mulberry actually goes across first and across the tracks and down already.
And
It's not a straight shot, which you would think, but so we tried to make a recommendation to change as few road names as possible.
I still call
Okay,
East
and what were
Main.
the two locations? I mean, can you give those again?
Yes, so it would be along the old Highway 70 from First Street to the bypass. So this would pass in front of the Southeast Electric,
Bruce
Bruce
Pack,
Pack, some of those.
Okay,
So that would be renamed Magnolia.
okay,
And then if you take from McLean to the bypass, that's also Old
How do
Highway
you-
70.
I call that one old Highway 70.
Okay, correct. And so that's some of the confusion there. So that would be East Main. I drove that again today and looked, and up until you get just past McLean, that still says Main Street on the street signs. But it
Didn't
is,
McLean intersect? Am I thinking of the right? Didn't McLean intersect? Sorry, I'm. Hang on, help me out. Help me.
Isn't there a little block or two of Magnolia Drive up by the college?
we actually had a conversation about that, and that was never an actual street. That was something that the university had designated the name there.
Oh, here.
So that was
Yeah,
never
right up
actually
here.
formally
I was
adopted
saying-
as a street name.
Okay,
It's private property from what I
Yeah.
understand.
I got it.
It's Old 70.
Yeah,
It's
I got
renamed.
it. Got it, thank you.
If it's any consolation, I had to change my name out at Genstar. I used to be Highway 75 North, and now I'm 224 Caddo Highway.
I know, but it needs changing all your paperwork
I know.
and everything.
Yeah, it was a lot of hassle.
And I would think that the city ought to let the businesses know before they really know them. They don't know. Go to the highway.
Any discussion?
Several sections of both of those roads are actually in the county. And we've also coordinated with the county, and the county will follow suit with what the city council does. So,
They
Just
have
so
to
you
go
know.
through the name change.
Yes, sir.
Too,
yes, sir.
or for those
For
locations.
those sections in the county, yes, sir.
And again, we've had a lengthy discussion about the necessity for this to come into compliance with 911 standards. So,
Well, and that's the safety net of the whole thing, that eventual 911 safety net that we all would like to have. So, and that was the reason for the address change that my family had to go through a few years ago.
Any further discussion? Are we ready to call for the vote?
Well, I think it's in the best interest, Ron, of all, I move that we approve resolution 2020-29 to rename sections of Old Highway 70 as recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number D, under administration, consider, discuss, and approve collective bargaining agreement fiscal year 2020-21 between the City of Durant and IAFF Local 3061, or take any other appropriate action. Ms. Kara, how are you?
Hello. This contract is the product of fire negotiations for 2021. The majority of the contract stayed the same, but there were a couple of changes. Section 3 of Article 18, we added the statement that negotiations will reopen if non-uniformed employees receive an across-the-board living increase, which we added that to the police contract as well. Section 4, pay for working out of class. If a driver, lieutenant, or captain come in and work in a higher pay classification, then they'll receive an additional $20 for the shift as long as they've worked in that position for longer than 10 hours. And then we adjusted the last step of the pay scale for lieutenants, captains, and crew chiefs to make room for, at minimum, a 5% increase if someone is promoted.
Is there any discussion, any questions?
I will say, if you approve it, it should be effective July 1 of 2020. I didn't put that in the title, so.
Well, it didn't need to be an emergency. Okay. Huh? I don't need to vote on that. Okay. Any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve, make a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement FY 2020-21 between the City of Durant and IAFF Local 3061, effective July 1, 2020.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Number E, under 5, under administration, consider approval of resolution 2020-28, extending the state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic until August 12, 2020.
Move approval resolution 2020-28.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number F, under 5, an administration, consider approval to support a proposal to additional lighting in the downtown business district. Is there anyone going to speak on
Curtis, you
that?
want to talk about this?
Come on up.
Council, thank you for your time. Just real quick, and I'll try to stay brief. You can see a preliminary proposal that we took to the Tourism Authority this last week. This is something that I've kind of had in the back of my head for a long, long time, of lighting up Main Street, dropping LEDs all the way down, see how far we can get. The proposal goes through 4th Street. And that's just kind of the first phase. We have a lot of people who are injecting large sums of private capital into our downtown in, restaurants, bars. This is tourism, absolutely. And this is where the money is to get this done. This is one of our few options to get people to come from the casino downtown to shop, to eat. And so, the grand scheme is light it up, make it very pedestrian friendly, be able to go from restaurant to restaurant, from facility to facility. Hopefully people will begin to stay open later at night. This is sales tax to the city. This is exactly what we need. And so I was a little surprised. The Tourism Authority seemed to take to this quite well. And I think we're going to go back and try to extend this a little bigger, maybe light up a little more of it and propose a few more phases of it. We would really like to see with Law Street Brewery going in around the corner. We'd really like to light that up once we see their proposal, to even move it down 2nd and 3rd Street. And like I said, one of the things is with this is parking is an issue, but that's actually a good problem to have, guys. Having people park and walk around our downtown is a wonderful, wonderful problem to have. And so I hope you support it. City Manager John Dean has been discussing about the city being responsible for paying for the electricity using the LED bulbs that we've proposed. It's going to be minimal. Even with the extended, we think them $1,000, $1,200 a year is what it's going to cost to light that up. So from a city budget standpoint, it's not much. And from the Tourism Authority, the one thing I will say is this something that will pay direct dividends to the city for years and years and years to come. We've been using this money to do one-off tournaments or a few things that are one time a year. This is something that will return money to the city of Durant for the next decade. And so I hope we can solicit your support in getting this done, and hopefully we'll come back with another proposal that will be a little bigger and a little grander. And I am incredibly excited about the thought of this getting done. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to field them.
I've got a question maybe for John. Which one of our people will do the routine maintenance? And that kind of stuff for this?
Well,
I
it
don't
would be
mean,
the,
I don't mean who, I mean what
it'd be the street department responsibility.
streets?
Yes, sir. It should be minimal maintenance. The LEDs,
The LED
10-year.
The bulbs are like 250 a piece and they should last 30,000 hours, which is years.
Did the tourism department offer to help, or are they still kind of,
They tabled it pending legal consideration or advice from legal counsel.
I was
whether
hoping
they
that
could
we'd have
actually
that before today, but I
do
still have
that.
not heard back.
So I don't see where legal would say that they could not do that with the funds that they have.
Well,
So,
this
but
this
that's
is
what they're
a,
waiting on.
this is a consideration to support the proposal, right?
That is correct. Yes, sir. That was one of the questions that the Tourism Authority asked, if the city supported it.
right?
I could say that I support it, right? But they want, consideration that council supports it. I think it's a great idea.
Before we go back and we're talking about going to another engineer and making sure this is done right. I mean, to do this, especially expanding it, we don't want to halfway it. We want to make sure it's beautiful, it's pretty, it lights up, it has the effect that we're looking for. And so, like I said, the city support is key in this before we can get much farther.
I move approval to support the proposal for additional lighting to the downtown business district.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
No, second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries.
Mayor,
Thank
council,
you.
thank you for your time.
Our next item, number G, consider approval of ordinance 1910, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Durant, Section 110-018, expiration, collection, license issued, and declaration, and declaring an emergency.
Yes, ma'am. As we all know, we have a business license in our code, and the actual expiration date is May 31st. And with what COVID happened, we were about to put that in practice. It's been in the code since the 90s. And we would like to extend that expiration deadline to December 31st. So that way we do not have to move on that this year and start at January 1st. So due to what COVID's done. So I make that permanent.
Move amendment of ordinance 1910, section 1.
Section A there, Jerry.
Section 1.
Section 1. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Section 2, the emergency clause.
Move approval, section 2, emergency clause.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Item number H, consideration to approve professional services agreement number DU-19-03B to Wall Engineering Firm C-2020-41 for engineering services related to the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart Water and Energy Efficient Grant, WEEG program, R19APOO124 for a citywide AMR smart meter conversion and advanced metering infrastructure project C-2020-18 contingent upon legal counsel review. Hi, Marty.
I am sorry for that, but when you include grants, you got to include all kinds of fancy words and numbers. So this is the AMI project we've been talking about for a long time. We have loan money ready and waiting to be used on this project, and we have the $1.5 million WEEG grant. And so because the grant is involved, we do have certain ways that we have to do things. We sent out a few weeks ago, we advertised for a letter of interest from engineers. We received 3 letters of interest back. And then we sent out a request for qualifications. We received back 2 statement of qualifications from engineers. The third one opted not to. And so there was an interview committee created by the city manager, myself and Stephanie Barfield from the utility office and Randy Cantrell from the M&O for construction side. And we interviewed both of them via phone teleconference. And we selected and we recommend that the city select Wall Engineering. He's got more experience than the other company with these kinds of projects. And obviously he knows our area and our system very well as well. So we feel comfortable recommending him for this project. This work order will allow me to start meeting with him and we can really start moving forward and getting some bids out. I hope to have bidding done in October for construction and we can have stuff in the ground probably by December. So.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Are engineering fees pretty standard? I mean, if
Yes, sir.
if you had 2 that you interviewed.
Well, so I can't ask them the fee, right? It's all based on their qualifications.
But to answer your question, Mr. Tomlinson, they are pretty standard.
There's a
Yeah.
percentage that we
percentage.
look for. Yeah. And he's going to fall right in just under the 10% mark, which is pretty expected. Yeah.
Any other questions? Any discussion?
What are they engineering?
Well, so in the meters, there's really not much engineering to do. Obviously, they've got to make sure we get the right meter. The infrastructure part for the AMI, which is talking about antennas and propagation of signal and some of those things, the software has to be integrated from Encode and into the system so that we can get the meter to read, write, and print bills. So there is some work on the back end of it. It's not a real heavy engineer project. He's also going to manage the project. He's going to do inspections. He's going to go out for bids for us to make sure we do that right and get the contractors organized.
So he's doing the inspection.
Yeah, yeah. And not only for, again, the meter part, but really the antenna part is probably more scientific. I mean, my guys can put meters in, but they can't mess with the antennas. That's a whole different ballgame.
Does he take care of the software?
Yeah, he's gonna help us with the entire project. When he pulls his final paycheck, we're gonna be 100% operational. And as soon as we start getting these in the ground, every one I put in the ground is one less I got to read. So we really start seeing the payback as soon as we start construction, and then it just grows from there.
Well, and the accuracy.
Yes, well, and that's where we see the payback.
Any other questions?
This total cost is a little over 3.6 million. That's pretty spot on. Is that what it's going to be, or is it going to change?
Well, I mean, we still got to go out for bid. That's based on the estimate.
Okay.
So you don't ever know until
Because
you're done.
they're-
We got 4 million OWRB,
Right.
right? And then we have an estimated about 3.5, 3.6. And then so now we know what the engineer is, which we had an estimate of that as well. The only thing we got to get bid out now is the actual meters and the construction part of it. How much is it going to take? And we're probably going to have to make a decision there. If we get 3 companies that bid it, maybe the price of the meter is all the same, but maybe one of them can do it in a year and the other one takes 18 months. And so maybe that's how we choose somewhere along the way. But we will take all that into account when we bid it out. Because we can't do the work. I don't have the manpower to put in 6,000. So
I was just thinking when we originally discussed this last year.
Yeah.
It was around 3.2 or 3.3.
And our estimates are
That was an
holding.
estimate, I understand.
The biggest cost of the meters is the actual meters, and they're still getting them for what we were quoted last time. So we think the meter cost is going to stay the same.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Marty?
The approval of DU 1903B to Wall Engineering,
We have a motion.
C-2020-41.
Sorry, Jerry. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Marty. Number 6, we now enter into the public hearing part of our meeting. Number A, consideration of PC 2020-10, ordinance number 1904, rezoning for property near the intersection of Highway 70 bypass and Cemetery Road.
Good
Ms.
evening.
Danielle?
This is for for rezoning. The applicant actually came through planning commission twice. The planning commission originally tabled it at their first meeting with the thought of maybe having it broke apart a little bit more to where, and that's why you have several different maps in your packets, where they could maybe look at having where only a piece of it was zoned industrial rather than the entire 215 acres. However, ultimately, the planning commission and staff supports the planning commission's decision for the recommending denial of the rezoning request. The main reason was the concern with it not being in compliance with the comprehensive plan, despite we're still working on that and we'll have a future land use map. We just don't know what that area is going to be yet. We know it'll be changing. We just don't know what it'll be. There's also concerns from the neighbors. At the first meeting, there's a lot of concern of what we don't know what's going to be, and anything that's in I-1 is going to be an allowable use there. So it could be anything from a warehouse to a concrete plant or anything in between. So there was a lot of concern of the unknowns of what it could be. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I'm not sure I didn't see the applicant here, but if there's any representatives you may have. So.
Anybody have any questions for Danielle, or is there anyone speaking for the other side? Does anybody else wish to speak on this subject? Does anybody else wish to speak? Third time, does anybody else wish to speak? Is there any further discussion? Are we ready for the motion?
And Danielle, when I reviewed, I think your first meeting regarding this, was there some discussion about access to the bypass?
There was a little bit of discussion, yes.
Because that won't happen.
Right, exactly, because that's the whole ODOT process, and the likelihood of that's going to be nil. And so they talked about off of Third or off of Rodeo Road there. But the concern then is how would that work? And and we said ultimately there's no way we could tell them how they could, once they get all that divided up, how that could work. So, and one more thing is at the second meeting, I failed to mention this, my apologies, but there's a piece that they wanted taken off of the original request. I've not seen any other paperwork other than what you have received, but if you divide that up, then it'll be still considered a dual zone property, which is just kind of bad planning practice.
So if they want to, they'd have to go back through the process again, right?
They would
rezoning?
not. Tom and I actually talked about this. If they wanted to have that separated out, they could, and it could just be a quick claim deed. And then they could divide that piece apart. But right now we don't have that in place. And so it would be a dual zone property if it was approved.
But it would come back before you.
No, it would not.
The zoning would come back.
No. Well, if you
gonna
guys
change the
approved the rezoning tonight, then
Oh.
then there's a possibility that it would. But if you guys disapproved it and they wanted to come back again, yes.
I move we follow the,
Well, the public hearing's now closed, and we will call for the motion.
I move we follow the planning and zoning community development's recommendation and deny the request.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Councilmember Shear,
Aye.
Councilmember Tomlinson, Councilmember Morris,
I want to make sure I don't
Your
get this
vote.
wrong. And I means we deny it, correct?
Yes.
Aye.
okay. Vice Mayor Brittingham,
Aye.
Mayor Groby,
Aye. Motion fails.
No, motion passes.
I'm sorry. Well, Tom, I'm glad you finally spoke up. I've been watching you in that pretty picture of that. Thank you. Okay. Motion passes. I'm sorry. Is there any new business? Okay.
just as the families were leaving, Joseph, he was putting the finishing touches on this diagram, and I just wanted to present it to you guys. I just come in a little late. So if you have any questions as you look at it, I'm familiar with the discussion that went on in its design. Sure be happy to answer. I know it's, looking at it, it could be a little bit confusing. That bottom section is a side view. Obviously, it's the concrete looks like it's about 19 feet from the edge of the roadway to where the memorial would start, and a 6-inch concrete pad. And if you look, it's got two by 24-inch storm pipes to facilitate the ditch drainage. It looks as if when it digs into the embankment as it backs up to Main Street, it looks like from the ground up to the base of the wall, but the bottom of the lion would be about 4 foot from the ground. And by the drawing, it looks like the wall would be approximately 18 feet wide, looking at that top view. You know, I just wanted to present that to you. I didn't want his work to go for naught.
Run parallel with the.
With Radio Road, it
Both
appears so.
streets, or-
Absolutely. It would, the back would face Main Street, the front would face Radio.
Will there be a light on this or is that, I don't see one, so I don't know. if
Well,
that-
it certainly, it was discussed. It's not drawn in here. And again, I think it's a work in progress.
Okay.
You said the lines were 21 inches?
The ones that they were looking at is about 21 inches tall.
So less than 6 feet overall on the height.
Probably so. They
As
was
of
looking
now.
at lines that were 21 inches tall. They were looking at lines that was 32 inches tall. And just from gauging the conversation, I think they rested on the 21-inch lines. Thanks for letting me show it to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye. We're now adjourned out of the Durant City Council meeting, and we will now adjourn. Let the record show it is 7:21, and we are now in the Durant City Utilities Authority, and we will call that authority to order. And would the clerk please call the vote? Roll.
Trustee Shear,
Here.
trustee Tomlinson.
Here.
Trustee Morris,
Here.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Here.
chairman Groby.
Here, we have a quorum. Under number 1, order of business, we have one consent item, number A, to approve regular meeting minutes of June 9th, 2020. Do we have a motion that we approve those minutes?
Move to approve the consent item.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson, trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. There are number 3, information items. If there are no questions on the information or items, we will go under number 4, administration. A, consider approval of loan agreement between Durant Airport Authority and Durant City Utilities Authority. Is that you, Mr. James?
That could very well be. As the council, as you know, we've been working to restore the fuel, 100 low lead fuel at the airport. That's been an arduous task that we want to get finished. Part of that is the fact that we're going to have to finance this project. We looked at what DCUA has in the bank, what their interest rate is. They're only drawing a quarter of 1% is all they're drawing. And rather than us finance through an outside institution, we would like to approach you and make it to where we finance using 0.25%, and that we carry the note through DCUA to finance the new fuel storage tank, the install of the tank, the removal of the old line where that hooks to the old tank, moving the kiosk and making it where we're ready to completely vend fuel to the customers again. In that, we looked at the being 180 payments, which would be 15 years, and the note payment would be $1839.31 a month, and that would begin 60 days after we complete the project. So we'd like to have your consideration for that, if you would. The amount that we're asking to borrow is $325,000.
James, this would be a turnkey
Yes,
operation.
ma'am.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For this amount of money, is there a reason we're stretching it out to 15 years?
Yes, sir, there is, because what we did, Mike, was we looked at the fuel cells, and Chin and I got together. We looked at what our 100 low lead fuel cells were for the last 10 years. And we looked at how much that fuel cost us and what the residual amount left over was that was profit. And to make that work based on that study, it would have to extend to the 15 years.
That's 300,000 or so.
325, yes, sir.
It appears you've done your due diligence, because I had a kind of the same question. Fuel sales are sufficient enough at a 15-year note level,
That's correct.
apparently.
And if for some reason our fuel sales were to escalate, there could be an option of doing it early, but
And there's no early penalty for early payment. But
no, sir.
what if fuel sales weren't sufficient?
We allowed just a little bit of cushion in there that hopefully we'll be able to be solvent on that.
Thank
you. Mhm.
Is this taking 100% or close to 100% of the profit from fuel sales?
By the time we pay the fuel and pay this note, yes, sir, that is correct. About 95%.
That's only for the 100 low.
100 low lead only. That's correct.
I know you guys have done your due diligence, but in saying that, with those profits going to that payment, is that taking away from anything? The operations or maintenance or?
I don't believe so.
No.
So,
We
we didn't
need-
want to put the airport in a bind, but we didn't want to borrow money from somewhere else.
Well, this is, actually, I think this is a first to borrow from the DCUA. I mean, it's been generous for years without any loan. And
We just
this may
transfer.
be not a precedent, but a first time. And I applaud actually the diligence that you guys have put into this. And
We want it to be where it would carry itself, and
we have an airport that deserves this, and customers that deserve this. And I think you even mentioned it. I think we get online that we'll see increased traffic and we'll see increased sales.
yes, sir. That's what we're hoping for.
James, I do have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
60 days, first payment?
Following the completion of it, that way it'll give us time to get our revenue
Well,
stream established.
my question is that since we've been down for so long, do you think that we're going to be, people coming back and buying during that 60-day period?
I really do, but we have based at the airport, we have about 40-something aircraft that will burn this type of fuel based at the airport. And that's not counting any transient traffic that we get in. That's just cross country. So And like I said, we went ahead and went back 10 years to look at a pattern. So we wouldn't be just pulling it from a short period of time. We think that's probably a good estimate.
Got a real,
I just didn't want you to get a buy-in right off the bat and not have.
I
that
don't either.
revenue.
Steve will owe you some money, but I've got a
I
real,
assume we're having our legal, I'm sorry.
I've got a real quick question.
Yes, sir.
That little structure with the house looking roof on it about a foot high right there in the loop, is that the old tank we're replacing?
It is, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's been there about 40 years to my
Beast.
memory.
Older than me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been there a while.
Any other questions?
One for Tom, maybe. Tom, you reviewed this, is this the contract or like the loan
Yes,
agreement
sir.
contract in
Yes, sir, it
itself?
is.
I've looked at it, Jerry.
Move approval of the, what do we call it? The DAA fuel system loan agreement.
Second.
We have a motion, sorry, we have a motion and we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, James. Do we have a motion for adjournment out of the utility authority?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries. We are now out, we're now adjourned. We now move into the airport authority. Let the record show that it is 7:29 and the Durant Airport Authority is called to order. Would the clerk please record the vote or call the roll?
Trustee Shear,
Here.
trustee Tomlinson.
Here.
Trustee Morris,
Here.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Here.
chairman Groby.
Here, we have a quorum. First item is consent items to approval of regular meeting minutes of June 9th, 2020. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent item.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number 3, airport manager monthly report. If anyone has any questions for Miss Katie, she can come forward and give a report. Does anybody have any questions? Nobody wants to talk to you today, Miss Katie. Okay, under administration, number 4, number A, consider acceptance of closeout documents for the runway rehabilitation design project for FAA grant AIP 3-40-005-011-2016. Mr. Marty again.
Good job. So I think it was last month, we actually closed out the runway extension grant for that big runway extension project. This is another grant that was coinciding with that one that allowed for some design at the beginning of the project and then design and surveying at the end of the project. So it kind of coincides with that runway extension. We want to close this one out now, and that's 2 grants that we've closed out. We're fully reimbursed at this point from the grants, and we've made all of our deadlines on everything. So this is just kind of a cleanup piece now that we've closed the other grant out. The survey is done, and we can close this one out.
Any questions for Mr. Marty?
Do we need a motion to just close it out?
To accept the closeout documents, the mayor's got to sign a couple pieces of paper.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept the closeout documents.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson, trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Marty. Item number 4B, consider award of bid to Innovative Fueling Solutions to install a fuel storage and delivery system to include alternate number 1. Ms. Katie?
So as I mentioned in last council meeting, airport board meeting, we had already advertised, we went out and advertised and sent out in 2 different papers, plus a public website forum. We opened up those bids on July 9th, and we only received 2 bids back. You'll see those in that table there. I have Steve here with me from Lochner to help give some more information about IFS, which is the recommending company that Lochner has recommended. Now, their price, as you see, is a little higher than the second company. But if you look right before the column on the prices, you will see that Petroleum Marketers did not complete the bid request completely. So they left some items, quite a bit of items out.
And I'll add to that. I'm Steve Harris with Lochner, and I helped put a package together that we could give bid, and we advertised it, as you said, opened the bids last week. And after a thorough review of the bids, in talking to both contractors that put a bid on it, I could not recommend the second one, the lower bid, which was, I'm sorry, I forgot their name, Petroleum Marketers Equipment. Although they were lower, after talking to them, they are a fuel installation firm and contractor, but they don't do the concrete work. They're used to getting the tank and installing it, and that's what they put their bid in. And there's nowhere to install it at this point. So the other firm had the full package bid, and I've worked with them before. Our company has, and they did a really nice system in El Reno for us, and a good company. And again, they had the full package bid and everything that's included.
Is back over here under the check marks, evidence of qualifications. They haven't checked that one. Is that a disqualifying factor? Okay.
I would say more of it. They had a paragraph of something nothing that I could really rely on. I've heard of them too, and they do good work. I'm more concerned about they did not include in their price items for concrete, for grading, for piping. It was just to get the tank here. And
Were those included in the other one?
Yes. Yes. So it's not really apples to apples. And he told me that he threw a bid in just in case nobody else turned it in. So that concerned me, and I don't want to. I think that would be a negative situation for the city to be in.
Thank you.
Well, and we're charged to always look at the low bid and have qualifying reasons if we don't accept the low bid. And apparently it's not the best bid.
Is there any other questions? Are we ready for the motion?
Are we on item B? Is that innovative?
Yes.
I make a motion, we award the bid to Innovative Fueling Solutions.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
vice chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Item 4C, consider approval of loan agreement between Durant Airport Authority and Durant City Utilities Authority, C-2020-39. James again.
This again is that same proposal that we just had under utility authority, and for us to borrow the money for the tanks.
Okay.
Move approval of the loan agreement C-2020-39.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson. Trustee Morris.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham.
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. The next item item D, 4D, consider approval of lease agreement between Titan Aviation Fuels and City of Durant, C-20-20-38.
Again, so we had discussed this in our, that this was upcoming. In order to provide temporary fuel service for the 100 low lead, we've negotiated with Titan Aviation to give us a 100 low lead refueler with just the cost of transportation. So they are waiving the lease fee on that. And I actually have a representative from Titan here. If you have any questions for him.
You mean a truck
Yes, a truck.
that they're providing for free, basically?
The lease will be free, yes. The monthly payment will be free. We have to pay the transportation costs, which would happen anyways with any company, so.
Any other questions?
Do we have a minimum purchase?
No, I don't believe so. We don't have a minimum purchase rate.
It's a 1 year.
Oh, sorry, yes, it is a one-year contract on the agreement, but there's no minimum purchase as far as fuel goes.
Any other questions? Are we ready for the vote?
It's your recommendation, right, Ms. Katie?
Yes, I do.
Move approval of the lease agreement with Titan Aviation and the city, C-2020-38.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Sher.
Aye.
Trustee Tomlinson.
Aye.
Trustee Morris.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham.
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number 4E, consider approval of aviation fuels contract with Eastern Aviation Fuels, Inc., DBA Titan Aviation Fuels, C-20-40.
So again, this is the company that is willing to provide us some temporary support on the 100 low lead. And part of their reasoning for doing that is because we talked about rebranding. There's twofold purposes really in looking at the rebranding of our current fuel provider at Durant. One, they're going to help us with compliance. Whether I'm here or 20 years from now, they're going to be on top of compliance for us, and therefore, hopefully, we won't have some of the issues that have culminated over the last 20 years. And secondly, again, they're providing us support, and being able to get this truck is a huge thing without having any payments on top of, the financials that we're looking at having with a loan and all that sort of thing that we're on taking as well. So.
Is there any discussion?
And Trey is also here to, Trey, do you want to say a few things?
I appreciate you guys letting me out. So I wanted to come out. Basically, we know you guys, we actually came out and audited you guys in 2018 to become branded with Titan. And there were a bunch of compliance issues, but Katie's done a heck of a job, and she's worked with our quality control manager, and he's a stickler. I mean, quality control in aviation is huge. And you guys are about there. I mean, you guys are literally there, waiting on one more signed paper, and then we're good to go. And we're going to go truck to truck for a year. You have the fuel farm you just approved on. And we're providing a temporary fix for your avgas, which will make people thrilled. And we hope it to be a long-term solution.
Thank you.
Move approval of the aviation fuels contract with Eastern Aviation.
We have,
DBA Titan Aviation Fuel C-2020-40.
we have,
I've got
we have a
one
motion.
I've got one question.
Okay.
Is there a set time for this or just open-ended agreement? I mean,
So it's a one-year agreement upon approval of the contract. And this is basically our first year agreement. After that, we can enter into a 3 to 5 year agreement, which is the standard. Most most fuel providers request that you go into contract with them, agreeing to purchase their fuel as the sole provider of fuels to your airport for 3 to 5 years is usually the standard. So we're not doing anything out of the norm, and they're shortening that time frame just to help us out in the beginning and at the end of the year. If there are any issues with either party, then we can look at other solutions.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson, trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries. Number F, consider approval of amendment number 6 to contract C-2015-04 with LBR Inc. to include new services and fees for the planned new wind cone installation project.
So this is a CAP project, if you will, at the end of the runway extension. When I came in, I wasn't part of the planning, and I noticed that we really were in the need of a secondary wind cone. I got together with the FAA, and they did approve that for this year's grant. And so this will be grant funded and grant matched by the FAA. And this particular item here is just for the amendment to the engineering company who did the runway extension project and then will help us with the wind cone installation. That's all this one is. You will see the grant come probably in another 2 months.
Any discussion? Any questions?
Approval of the amendment number 6 to contract C-2015-04.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, board
Thank you,
members.
Katie. Any new business? If not, then we have a motion for adjournment out of the airport authority.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion, a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye. We are now adjourned from the Utility Authority, and we are now moving into the Durant Development Authority. Let the record show that it is 7:45. Would the clerk call the roll?
Trustee Shear,
Here.
trustee Tomlinson,
Here.
trustee Morris,
Here.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Here.
Chairman Groby.
Here, we do have a quorum. Under order of business, we have one consent item. Number A, consider approval of regular meeting minutes of April 14th, 2020. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have new business? If there's no new business, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Would the clerk please record the vote?
Trustee Shear,
Aye.
trustee Tomlinson,
Aye.
trustee Morris,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Groby.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.